Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're thinking about something a bit different than just, running from dinosaurs, that primal thrill, raptor at your heels, the ground shaking.
Right, the classic movie moments.
Exactly. That's just the surface, really. Today, we're stepping into the unsettling shoes of those who create them.
Ah, the God complex part.
Sort of, yeah. We're asking a much more complex and honestly kind of disturbing question. What are Jurassic games really simulating? Especially when they hand you the power of life and death, creation, and chaos.
It's a layer that's so easy to miss, isn't it? You get caught up in the spectacle, the sheer wonder of seeing a digital brachiosaurus walk past, or the frantic clicking of managing a park.
Building the fences, checking the feeders.
Precisely. But underneath all that, these games are, maybe unintentionally sometimes, grappling with some really profound philosophical stuff. Today, we're pulling back the curtain a bit. We want to explore how Michael Crichton's original warnings, his ideas about chaos theory, the deep ethical tangles of creation, and, frankly, human hubris, how these things actually play out across the whole history of Jurassic Park gaming.
Absolutely. So our mission today, if you will, is to take you on this journey. It starts with that initial fascination, almost childlike, right? Designing life in a digital petri dish.
You feel powerful, bringing back the extinct.
Totally. Like a god. But as we dig deeper, we're going to guide you, hopefully, towards this growing sense of foreboding.
Yeah.
An unsettling awareness of the disturbing truths kind of hidden in these simulations. This isn't just about, gameplay loops or getting 5 stars. Think of this whole deep dive as a digital cautionary tale playing out.
That's a great way to put it.
Yes.
Because you are granted this immense power. Designing ecosystems, engineering life forms unseen for millions of years, it feels limitless. But almost right away, you bump up against these unspoken rules, these unwritten limits that seem to dictate the inevitable unraveling of your control.
It's like a subtle background hum at first.
Yeah, a quiet tension. It perfectly echoes Crichton's original chilling vision. And believe me, that whisper, it becomes a roar the further we dive in.
Okay, let's unpack that a little, because when you talk about the philosophy behind Jurassic Park, you just have to start with Dr. Ian Malcolm.
The rock star mathematician.
Decayetician, yeah. Everyone remembers his big line, life finds a way. It's everywhere, right? Pop culture, staple, kind of shorthand for nature, just pushing through no matter what.
It's defiant, almost optimistic in a way.
But there's another Malcolm quote, one that maybe doesn't get printed on T-shirts quite as much, but it's arguably way more vital for understanding the core message, the real thesis of the whole franchise. Films and games.
I think I know the one you mean. It's when he just lays into Hammond, right? They're really biting critique.
Exactly. He says, you stood on the shoulders of geniuses, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox.
Oof, yeah. That hits hard. And it's not just a clever insult, is it?
Not at all.
That line, for me, is the absolute heart of this deep dive. It's Crichton's and Malcolm's searing indictment of commodifying life itself, of unchecked scientific progress, corporate greed running rampant.
Turning wonder into a product.
Precisely. And the sheer arrogance of thinking you can truly control something as vast and complex as existence and then just, stick a price tag on it. It's about that reckless drive for profit and spectacle with absolutely zero foresight or, frankly, respect for the systems you're messing with.
That's such a critical point, because this warning, this whole thesis, is something you see game developers really, really wrestling with across the different Jurassic games.
How do you translate that into gameplay?
Right. They give you these incredible tools, these digital labs where you can do almost anything. But do they actually instill caution? Do they manage to convey that warning?
Or do they just enable the fantasy?
Exactly. They provide these super intricate systems. You feel like you're in total control, but do they properly highlight the inherent limits? The fact that maybe you aren't in control. It's this fundamental tension baked right in.
And that tension leads us straight to Crichton's big idea, chaos theory. For him, it wasn't just, abstract math or physics.
Butterfly effect stuff.
Yeah, that's part of it. But in his stories, it became this powerful narrative force, almost like cosmic justice in a way.
Huh. Interesting.
The core idea that complex systems, especially biological ones, like an ecosystem or, say, cloned dinosaurs, they simply cannot be controlled indefinitely. They're fundamentally unpredictable.
Life finds a way, but maybe not the way you planned.
Exactly. Life, in its raw, resilient form, will always outpace human intention, human design. It's relentless, self-correcting, often brutally so. That butterfly flapping its wings, that tiny change, it can trigger massive unforeseen consequences down the line. That's the essence of these unwritten rules we're talking about.
And what's really wild is how even the super early Jurassic Park games, maybe completely by accident, captured this feeling of chaos. Thinking way back, like the SNES version or the one on the Sega
Oh,
Genesis,
yeah, those were something else.
they weren't these grand park builders, mostly action or adventure games, but their design choices, whether they meant to or not, they really hammered home that sense of unpredictable danger, that feeling of not being in control.
It was almost like accidental brilliance in a way.
Yeah.
Take the SNES game. You're dropped onto this island, top-down view, map makes no sense.
I remember getting so lost.
Totally confusing.
Yeah.
And raptor encounters, sudden, vicious, often completely unavoidable. Resources were thin on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the biggest thing for our discussion today, often there were no saves, or very limited ones, no helpful guides.
Oh, God, yes. The lack of saves.
You were just chucked into this brutal, unforgiving world, forced into this relentless loop of trial, error, and usually death.
Yeah.
Every single wrong step, every raptor jumping out of nowhere, every dead end, boom, back to the start.
I remember the sheer frustration. It felt less like playing a game and more like being subjected to some cruel, chaotic experiment.
Exactly. You didn't master the system. You just sort of survived its random cruelty for a bit longer each time. You were constantly adapting, constantly failing.
It wasn't just hard. It felt like the game itself was mechanically enforcing Crichton's point about things spiraling out of control. You couldn't predict it. You could only react, adapt, and, yeah, often just get overwhelmed by the chaos.
The game itself felt like this randomized, uncaring force, almost mirroring the very nature Malcolm warned about.
So that accidental design, those brutal mechanics, they really set the stage. They were that first faint whisper that total control is just an illusion. A little preview of the bigger, more spectacular collapses yet to come.
It really felt like you were fighting a losing battle against the environment itself.
And speaking of those early whispers, that accidental simulation of chaos, well, they absolutely explode into full, unsettling view when we jump forward to modern sims like Jurassic World Evolution.
Right, this is where the gloves come off, technologically speaking.
Yeah, this is where the gaming side of the franchise really seems to lean into that paradox of control, because it gives you everything, all the tools, all the power. Build your dream dino park.
Okay, and yeah, let's maybe get a bit more analytical here for a second, because the mechanics are key to understanding the message, intended or not.
Makes sense.
So, in Jurassic World Evolution, you're basically the park CEO, designer, and crisis manager all rolled into one. You're researching genomes, setting up enclosures, different fence strengths, environmental needs, water sources, feeders.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
You're managing budgets, staff, research trees, and you're constantly juggling guest satisfaction, getting them in, keeping them happy, keeping them safe with the obvious dangers of housing giant prehistoric predators.
And hoping a hurricane doesn't hit.
And dealing with disaster response. Exactly. Power outages, disease outbreaks, and yes, the inevitable dino breakouts. It's this incredibly complex web of interconnected systems that you're supposed to master.
Right, you're the architect of this dino kingdom. You're tweaking genes to get better ratings, building monorails, fancy viewing galleries. You pour hours into it, placing every gift shop, every ranger station, just so.
Making it perfect.
Trying to. And you succeed, right? Your star rating climbs, the money rolls in, you feel like you've cracked it. But here's where it gets really interesting and deeply unsettling.
The paradox.
The game's central kind of twisted paradox. The better you play, the more dangerous it all becomes.
It's such a counterintuitive loop, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hitting that coveted 5-star park rating in Evolution, it doesn't mean you've achieved safety. It doesn't mean stability.
No.
Quite the opposite. It actually means your park is more fragile. This is the big aha moment for so many players. The point where the game's underlying message, maybe Crichton's ghost in the machine, starts to sink in.
How does that work mechanically? Why does success breed danger?
Well, to get those top ratings, the game subtly nudges you, incentivizes you towards higher risk. You need more dinosaurs, more impressive dinosaurs. That means breeding more dangerous apex predators, your T-Rexes, your raptor packs.
The big draw.
The big draws. Or even pushing into genetically modified hybrids, like the Indominus Rex. You're modifying their genes for higher infamy or attractiveness ratings.
Okay.
You're also encouraged to pack more guests into smaller areas for efficiency, maxing out your hotel capacity, pushing your power grids and fences to their absolute limits. It's a perfect simulation of unchecked ambition, really.
So each success just adds complexity.
Exactly. Each new 5-star exhibit, each blockbuster dinosaur adds another potential point of failure. It's like building a Jenga tower higher and higher. Every successful move makes the whole structure inherently more unstable. The underlying system becomes exponentially more complex, more prone to these unforeseen ripple effects.
So this is basically chaos theory turned into a game mechanic. It's simulated right there in the core loop.
Absolutely, you see it constantly. That delicate balance, like having multiple large carnivores near each other versus the strength of the sense between them, or the risks of aggressive gene editing you're pushing for maximum appeal, creating these hyper-aggressive, maybe stressed-out creatures
For the wow fact.
for the wow factor.
Yeah.
But the game rarely has a built-in ethical governor on that.
Hmm.
There's no real penalty for creating a monster, only for when it inevitably escapes. The risk assessment is purely reactive, not proactive.
Until a storm hits?
And then the storm hits, or the power flickers, or one tired ranger forgets to close a gate properly. Just one small thing. That tiny butterfly flaps its wings.
And suddenly it all goes wrong.
It cascades, the lights go out, you hear that awful thud of a heavy fence failing. Then the distant wars get closer. Total chaos erupts.
And players describe this so vividly, watching their perfect park just descend into absolute pandemonium.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the Indominus Rex, this ultimate killing machine you probably created, not just escaping, but seemingly outsmarting your systems, finding weaknesses.
It feels intelligent in its destruction.
Yeah, and the monorail you built for safe viewing suddenly shuts down, trapping guests, and then just the panic, those little digital people running everywhere, becoming snacks, it's genuinely chilling to watch unfold.
And you, the player, you zoom out. You get this weird, almost out-of-body feeling of helplessness. Your beautiful, organized map turns into this flashing red nightmare of alerts and escaped dinos.
Oh, your careful planning, gone.
Gone. And in those moments, the simulation it breaks character. It drops the pretense of being a fun park-building game.
And shows its true colors.
And reveals its truth.
Yeah.
You were never, ever really in control. You were just setting the stage for the inevitable consequences of a system built on ignoring the fundamental rules of nature, built on hubris.
And the Indominus.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. It feels like more than just a bad guy dinosaur.
Oh, absolutely. It's a truly tragic figure in this context. A symbol, really,
Of what?
of that unchecked ambition. Scientific hubris taken to its extreme. It wasn't born. It was designed, assembled, manufactured for profit and spectacle.
A product.
A living weapon as a theme park attraction. It's a mashup of terrifying traits, given no natural context, no social group, no purpose beyond being. Scary and profitable. Its existence, its isolation, its engineered rage. It embodies the danger of designing life without understanding life, without respecting its needs, its nature, its unpredictable power.
So its rampage isn't just destruction.
It's almost a scream against its own unnatural, agonizing existence. It's holding up a mirror to our own desires, twisted and made monstrous.
Which brings up a really important, maybe deeply unsettling point. If these games are such powerful simulations of chaos, of consequence, why do most of them seem to deliberately sidestep one huge dimension?
You mean the should we question?
Exactly. Ethics.
Yeah, it's a fascinating and, quite frankly, glaring omission most of the time.
It really is striking, isn't it? You, the player, you're given the power to build, to clone, to genetically modify, to create creatures like the Indominus. The game actively rewards you for churning out more dinosaurs, bigger dinosaurs, scarier dinosaurs.
They're content for your park.
Right. But it almost never stops to ask you, the player, should you be doing this? You get the keys to the genetic kingdom, but there's no built-in moral compass, no ethical framework guiding how you use that power.
It's almost like the design assumes that profit and spectacle are the only drivers, the only things that matter in the simulation.
Which feels incomplete.
Definitely. And there's a real lack of meaningful in-game consequences for actions that feel morally questionable. You can, crowd dinosaurs into minimally sized enclosures to save money. You can juice their aggression genes for higher ratings. You can keep them perpetually stressed.
As long as they don't break out too often.
Exactly. The game doesn't really engage with the ethics of cloning itself or animal welfare in captivity or the sheer unnaturalness of these theme parks. It allows it, often rewards it financially, without forcing any real reflection. You're penalized for operational failures like escapes, but not for the ethical choices that might lead to those failures. The ethical breach itself is basically invisible to the game's logic.
But imagine if that wasn't the case. What if Future games, maybe like Jurassic World Evolution 2 started doing, or even future ones, actually built in ethical choices, made them a core mechanic, not just background flavor.
That would change everything.
Totally. Think about the dilemmas you could face. Like maybe you have a big contract deadline, you need to debut a new aggressive hybrid for a huge payout.
You know the risks. You know it's unstable.
Right. Do you push ahead, clone the dangerous hybrid, meet the deadline, get the funding, but accept the huge risk? Or do you delay, play it safe, prioritize caution and maybe animal welfare, but lose that critical funding? What's the right choice then?
Or picture this.
Yeah.
You have a large carnivore, clearly distressed. Its comfort level is plummeting. Its pacing showing signs of, well, zoochosis.
Yeah.
Does the game give you a real choice? Option A, invest heavily. Research rehabilitation. Build a massive naturalistic sanctuary enclosure. Hire specialist vets. Prioritize its well-being, even if it costs a fortune and doesn't directly boost profits. Versus option B. Maybe just tranquilize it periodically, or worse, push it out into the public viewing area anyway for a quick boost in guest ratings, hoping nothing goes wrong. Or even the really tough calls. A beloved dinosaur is terminally ill, suffering. Do you let it fade away slowly? Or do you make the difficult call to euthanize it publicly, knowing the potential PR hit and guest unhappiness?
Wow. That would add such depth. It makes you really think.
And it's not just us asking these questions, right? What's so interesting is how, because the games themselves often leave this ethical space empty, the player community rushes in to fill it. They become the conscience of the franchise in a way.
How so?
Well, you see all these player-driven initiatives. People create mods, for instance, that add much more detailed dinosaur welfare indicators, stress levels, social needs, environmental preferences, forcing players to engage with those aspects more deeply than the base game requires.
So they're coding the ethics back in.
It's essentially, yes. Or players design their own custom scenarios. Maybe simulating animal rights protests outside the park gates, or acts of corporate espionage or sabotage linked to unethical practices, forcing difficult choices with real consequences within their own created narratives.
And you mentioned sanctuaries before.
Yeah, that's a big one. Whole groups of players deliberately ignore the profit motive. They build sanctuary parks. Huge natural enclosures, minimal human interference, focus entirely on dino welfare. They're playing against the game's core capitalist loop.
Creating refuges, not just attractions.
Exactly. And they write their own lore, their own headcanons, imagining what happens after the parks fail. Maybe rewilding efforts, protected zones. They're transforming the narrative from exploitation to repair to responsibility. They're essentially designing the ethical game they wish existed.
That says a lot, doesn't it? Why do you think there's such a strong desire for this ethical dimension, this accountability, even in a simulation?
It's a great question. Maybe it taps into something fundamental about our relationship with power, even simulated power. Perhaps deep down, we know that creating life, even digital life, carries a weight, a responsibility that goes beyond just entertainment or achieving objectives. We want our actions, even in a game, to have meaning, to reflect some kind of values.
Which really circles back to that core idea, doesn't it? That these games, ultimately, they're not really about dinosaurs.
Not fundamentally, no.
They're about us, our systems, our ambition, our hubris, our habits.
The dinosaurs are just magnificent, terrifying the mirror. They reflect our own actions, our assumptions, our desires back at us. They become this canvas onto which we project our need for control, our fear of the unknown, and our capacity for both incredible awe and sometimes thoughtless exploitation.
It really drives home what Michael Crichton was truly warning us about, and it feels more relevant today than ever with AI genetic engineering.
Absolutely. His warning wasn't just, watch out for T-Rexes. It was much deeper. It was about our unchecked assumptions, about the illusion that we can achieve absolute control over incredibly complex systems.
That famous quote.
The planet is not in jeopardy. We are in jeopardy. We don't understand nature, and we think we can control it. That resonates so powerfully through these games. It's his legacy, that deep, foreboding tension, living on in the code. It's a warning against arrogance, a critique of reducing the world to manageable parts without seeing the whole chaotic picture.
And you even feel hints of it, maybe subconsciously, in the lighter games, right? Like Lego Jurassic World.
Yeah, even there, it's playful, obviously. You're smashing bricks, rebuilding dinosaurs piece by piece.
Yeah, click, click, click.
Exactly. You can rebuild a park, recreate the iconic scenes, build crazy Lego hybrids. Yeah. But that question still kind of hangs in the air, doesn't it? You can rebuild, but should you? The cycle of creation and destruction just continues, playfully, but without much reflection baked in. The core dilemma is still there, just made of plastic bricks.
So the modern games, like Evolution 2, they're starting to touch on these themes more.
They are flirting with them, yes. You get glimpses, small narrative beats, maybe slightly more focus on welfare. But they still seem hesitant to dive headfirst into the really deep end, the full implications of, say, extinction ethics. What right do we have? Or de-extinction trauma, the psychological impact on the creatures. Or genuine large-scale ecological collapse simulation, if things go truly wrong.
Not quite there yet.
Not fully. But the potential is there. The bones are there in the code, you could say. The code remembers Crichton's warning, even if the surface gameplay doesn't always foreground it. The potential for a much deeper, more challenging, ethically rich experience is waiting.
And again, it seems that the fan community is already way ahead, sketching out what those deeper games might look like.
Oh, definitely. They're pushing the boundaries conceptually. You hear about fan-proposed game ideas like one called Genesis, Release Protocol.
There's the concept.
The whole game isn't about building the park. It's about the incredibly complex, messy task of undoing it. Safely dismantling the facilities, rewilding the dinosaurs, figuring out how they coexist with modern ecosystems and humanity. Managing that fallout. It's about cleanup and responsibility, not creation.
That sounds fascinating and difficult.
Hugely difficult. Or you see the rise of interactive fiction, text adventures, focusing purely on dinosaur empathy. Trying to get inside the head of a velociraptor, understand its social bonds, its perspective, beyond just threat or asset.
Moving beyond the monster movie tropes.
Exactly, and people writing scripts or stories imagining hybrid regret. What if a creature like the Indominus E750, its code name, what if it had moments of awareness, grappling with its own artificial nature, its engineered instincts, its total isolation?
A monster questioning its own existence.
Yeah. Can a creature born of hubris find some kind of tragic self-awareness? How would that even play out? It shifts the focus entirely, from horror to tragedy, maybe even to a strange kind of empathy.
And those fan voices, those echoes from the ether you mentioned, they're so direct sometimes.
They really cut through, like that YouTube comment someone found. I don't build parks anymore. I build refuges. These creatures were exploited. Now they rest.
Wow. That's a powerful statement of intent from a player.
It completely reframes the game's purpose. Or you see Reddit threads just buzzing with these what-if questions that demand more ethical depth.
Wait.
What if a game actually let us release all the dinosaurs and then tasked us with managing the resulting global ecosystem? Or what if major decisions like de-extinction projects required a player vote with real lasting consequences? What if failure wasn't just a financial hit, but meant permanent narrative changes, real loss?
They want the stakes to feel real, ethically.
They want the choices to matter beyond the balance sheet. And then there's that really insightful fan theory.
The one about fathers.
Yeah. The Jurassic franchise is not about monsters. It's about broken fathers and commodified awe. Every fence is a metaphor.
That reframes everything. The dinosaurs are symptoms, not the disease.
Precisely. The disease is human failing the need to control, to profit from wonder, to reduce the sublime to a line item.
And that comparison you mentioned earlier, the AI Labs one, that one feels particularly chilling right now.
It is unsettling. Comparing Jurassic World evolution to how we're currently training AI, you create these controlled digital environments, you populate them with unpredictable agents, digital dinos, nascent AI, you set up reward systems, often without fully considering consent or the inner life of the agent.
You're just observing behavior, tweaking inputs, seeing what happens.
Right, pushing boundaries in a sandbox where the consequences feel contained, simulated. It forces you to ask, is this game really just about dinosaurs? Or is it, in some way, a rehearsal? A reflection of how we're approaching other powerful, unpredictable systems that we maybe don't fully understand, systems we're building right now.
That definitely elevates the discussion beyond just gaming. It becomes a digital cautionary tale in a much broader sense.
And brings us right back to Crichton's core message, crystal clear. The danger is not the dinosaur. The danger is the illusion of control. These games, from the clunky old ones to the slick new ones, they aren't just entertainment. They are simulations, yes, but maybe they're also rehearsals for how we think, how we act when faced with complexity and power. A sandbox for our hubris, and a mirror showing us our limits. Hashtag tag outro. So, yeah, when you see gameplay and philosophy intersect like this, when chaos theory isn't just window dressing but actually shapes the player experience, it makes you wonder.
About what could be next.
Exactly. It suggests that maybe the definitive Jurassic game, the one that truly grapples with Crichton's deepest warnings, maybe that game hasn't been made yet.
Maybe it wouldn't look like what we expect.
Perhaps not. Maybe it won't be about building bigger parks or fighting more monsters. Maybe the ultimate Jurassic game is actually about the choices before the first clone, about the profound act of deciding.
Deciding what, though?
Deciding. What do we preserve? What responsibilities do we have? What power should we choose not to use? And ultimately, what should we learn, maybe the hard way, to just let go of? A game about wisdom, maybe? Restraint? Humility?
That's a heavy thought, a different kind of simulation entirely.
It is. Until then, maybe the takeaway is question your simulations, honor the chaos, respect the complexity, and play with care.
Sound advice. Next time on The Deep Dive, we'll be zoning in on that ultimate symbol of engineered terror, the rise of the Indominus Rex, and the coded horror of hybrid design. E750 awaits.